Hello everyone, I'm Nandom Gusen and this is part 4 on the video series of becoming a professional Forex trader. In this part 4 series, I'm going to be teaching you about the news. When you're trading Forex, you'll be hearing about the news. So let's start by defining what those news are. The news, as we all know from the name, are news. Okay, they are information about the financial market, about the economy, about commodities, about stocks globally. Okay, the first thing about the news is that they are being released online. Okay, and we have so many websites where you can go and get reliable information about the financial markets. One of them is the cnbc.com. cnbc.com. Another is bloomberg.com. Okay, another is the investing.com. Another is the forexfactory.com. Okay, so all these are reliable information centers or websites where you can get information. Now you can see 11 minutes ago, you see this Dow futures, which is a stock, it drops 400 points as Wall Street set to extend last week's sharp losses. You see, just 11 minutes ago. This is coming from CNBC. Now this is a US stock called Dow Street. Okay, it drops 400 points. So that's not a good information for investors that are trading it. Okay, it extends last week's losses. So when you're trading this stock, this is not the right time to go and trade this stock. It has fallen 400 points. 400. Okay. Now we have live update. You know, Germany's contact tracing app to go live. France to reopen Paris restaurants. Okay, we have so many news. This is coming from Bloomberg. You begin to see live and breaking news around the world. It gives you information about stocks and investments and the rest. Now we're going to be looking at one of the news, which is called the economic calendar. Okay, you go to investing.com/economic calendar. And this is it. Okay, this is it. Now in the economic calendar, okay, in the economic calendar, we look at this week. Okay, all right. So on Monday the 15th of June, what are we going to expect this week? When you see 3 head bulls, it means it is a high impact news. It's going to cause a lot of volatility in the market. And when you see 2 head bulls, it means it is a medium impact news. There will be some moderate volatility. But when you see 1 head bull, it means that there's going to be just a very low volatility in the market. All right. Now here we are expecting high volatility, and this is going to affect the Chinese yen. Now I want you to take note that anything that affects the Chinese currency also affects Australia, also affects New Zealand. Okay, yeah, because most of their trading hours are almost at the same time. Okay, so this is going to be a strong news. And take note, as it affects China, it's going to affect Australia, it's also going to affect New Zealand. Alright, it's also most likely going to affect Japan, because they all have the same trading session hours. Okay, now this is it, industrial production. So the next thing you need to know about news is this. We have what we call the forecast, and we have what we call the actual. Okay, now let's look at last week's news, and then let's interpret it. So last week started Monday from 8 to Friday 12th. Okay, let's apply and let's look at what happened. Now this is it. This is the actual and this is the forecast. Now the forecast is the expected value of the data. Okay, now if the data that comes out is more than the expected value, the currency becomes bullish. But if the actual value is less than the forecast, then that currency becomes bearish. Take note, an example. Now this is the Japanese yen. Okay, now the GDP data for Japan was released in Nigerian time by 12:50 in the night, and we know that this is a high impact news. Now the previous data was minus 0.9% and a forecast was made to be what? To be minus 0.5%. And now when the news data came out, the value happens to be minus 0.6. You know, minus 0.6 is far lower than minus 0.5. So as a result of that, the data was worse than expected. So it made the Japanese yen to be bearish. Take note of this. Now let us look at some other news as well. Now this is euro. Okay, this one, the ECB president speaks. Usually when they speak, there's no any actual or forecasted value, but the speech they make begins to affect the market directly or indirectly. You know, the same ECB president Lagarde speaks. Okay, now let's look at some. Okay, now we have the United States job openings. You know, the forecasted value was 5.00 M. Okay, but now when it happened, it exceeded 5. It even went to 5.04, which means it is a better value than it was expected. And as a result of that, you see it came out green because it was better than expected, which means that the US dollar currency is going to gain some strength, is going to be bullish. Okay, let's look at some. Here we have you know, the CPI, consumer price index. That's the meaning of the CPI. Okay, this happened to the United States dollar. When was it? I think that was on Wednesday last week. Okay, now the forecast value is minus 0.1, and when the news data was released, it was still at minus 0.1. So it wasn't better than expected, it wasn't worse than expected, it's just the same as it is. So in this case, most likely that I've seen, the US dollar becomes bullish in most cases. Okay, now here we also have another one. This is it. This is the crude oil inventories. You see the crude oil inventories? Okay, it was forecasted to be from you know, the previous value was minus 2.077 M. Okay, and then this here was forecasted to be minus 1.73, but when the value came out, you know, it came out to be 5.7. you see, and it was worse than expected. The same thing happening here, you know. The same thing happening here as well. You know, this was worse than expected. Okay, it was far below the forecasted value. As you can see here, this is the continuing job claims. Okay, look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Look at this. Look at this. So that is how we know about news. If it is worse than expected, it will come out in red. If it is better than expected, it will come out in green. So if it is worse than expected, you see it like this. Now take note of something. I want you to take note that if it is worse than expected, it's supposed to be bearish. Sometimes you see the market becoming bullish, but don't get carried away. Very soon it will begin to fall. Sometimes not all news releases happens immediately. Sometimes it happens after several hours. Okay, but it will surely happen. So if you see that this happens and it is in red, it's supposed to be falling on the chart, but it is rising, just be careful, because sooner or later it will begin to fall, and those of you that are buying are going to be very disappointed. So that is how to interpret that is how to interpret news in the forex market. So let's go back to this week. This is for last week. Now let's go back to this week. Let's look at some of the high impact news we're expecting. So on Monday, we are going to be experiencing this from China, and I told you the affected currencies are the AUD, NZD, and the Japanese yen as well, because they are in the same trading time zone. Okay, let's look at all the high impact news. On Tuesday, there is going to be RBA minutes meeting. This is from Australia. It's going to be happening at 2:30 a.m. in the night here in Nigerian time. So this is going to make the Australian dollar to be very volatile. Now we have the Bank of Japan monetary policy statement. Is going to happen on Tuesday in the night, okay, around 5:30 in the morning. So we have to be very careful trading this. Sometimes we have to wait until the news happens before we trade, because sometimes if the news happens on an existing trade, it may crash your account if your account is actually a very small account. We're expecting a high volatile news on Tuesday 7 a.m. from Great Britain. Is going to affect the Great British Pounds. Look at it. Then on Tuesday there's BOJ press conference. Wow, I think the Japanese yen is going to be very volatile on Tuesday. So we have to be careful of trading it, because you will start to see long candles everywhere in the market on any currency pair that involves the JPY. So at least we've gotten direction. We have to be extremely careful this week with the JPY. Now on Tuesday 10 in the morning, we have the ZEW economic sentiment. Is going to be a high impact news. The same. So that these are some of the news releases. So it's good that when you trade, you put news releases on mind. Okay, why do we need the news? It helps and gives us information about the market. Okay, it gives us an idea of what to expect. Okay, if news happens and a currency becomes bullish, it gives us an idea that this market is going to be bullish for a while. Okay, if the news release comes out and it happens to be bearish, it would tell you, this news release is going to be bearish. So it gives us idea on what to expect and how to approach it. Like on Tuesday this week, we have to be very careful, because JPYs are going to come with long candles. So if it's me, I will not trade any currency that involves the JPY. I will wait on Tuesday to be observing it. The moment I start seeing very long candles on the JPY, like here, this is USD JPY, I begin to see very long candles there, you see, then I will begin to trade it. So me, I'm going to be expecting long candles on Tuesday on the JPY. So the moment I see long candles, if they are bullish candles, I go to buy. If they are bearish candles, I go to sell. So these are some of the things we have to watch out for this week. Okay, then on Wednesday, what are we expecting? We are expecting a lot of news from the British pounds. So those who have existing trades from Tuesday, Wednesday, and they have to be very careful. So I'll make sure after the news I know I will know how I would go about with the pounds. Okay, then on Thursday this week we have a high impact news coming from Euro. Okay, then on Friday, okay, we have crude oil inventories, GDP. This is from Russia. Okay, this is from NZD, GBP news. So this will happen to NZD on Thursday in the night. That's around 11:45 p.m. Then on Friday we are going to expect employment change news from Australia. Okay, we're going to expect interest rate decision from Swiss France, from CHF, that's Switzerland. Okay, and then we are going to be expecting a lot. Okay, Bank of England inflation report. Wow, this is one of the news that happens only once in a while. It shakes the forex market a lot. I think this week we need to keep all these time zones in mind. Okay, look at the USD and the rest. So all these things are Thursday. Okay, Friday we have this. Man, we have a lot of news released this week, important news releases. So this week, don't stay too long in the market, because news helps and gives us an overview of what we should expect. Don't stay too long in the market. Just be trading short term. Pick your profits and close. Enter, pick your profits and close. Because if the news goes against your trade, your account is going to crash. So that's the approach we're going to be applying to news releases.